Well, the most luxurious ship to ever set sail has arrived in Doraville. The new Titanic Immersive Voyage gives guests a very unique experience inside the ill-fated ship and an up-close and personal look at more than 300 artifacts. So John Zoller with Exhibition Hub is here this morning with more on Titanic and Immersive Voyage. And John, it is such a pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here, Elise. Thanks so much. Glad to talk about Titanic and Immersive Voyage.
Obviously, this is something that people have been looking forward to having in town. It's here. It's ready to go, ready for folks to come out and enjoy. I mean, does it get much more historic and interesting than the Titanic?
No, Titanic is an evergreen subject. We all see ourselves reflected in that story. It's over 100 years of storytelling that we've brought to the Exhibition Hub Art Center with over 300 artifacts in these immersive environments.
Amazing, and you brought some of those that we're going to cover in just a moment, but I want you to take us inside. I mean, what is this truly like? Because when you're talking immersive, I mean, that means we will feel like we were on the Titanic, right?
So,
see it in that view.
I've been a part of a lot of Titanic exhibitions, and with this one, we really wanted to raise the bar on what a Titanic exhibition would be. So over 300 artifacts, immersive room recreations, an incredible audio tour, and those breathtaking immersive moments that place you on the ship like never before. And a cutting-edge virtual reality experience where you can actually dive to the wreck and see the wreck like you could not even see it if you were there in person.
Wow, that's powerful, especially considering the news that, you know, the shipwreck down there isn't doing so great these days, right? Like may not be in the same condition that it is now.
So slowly over time it is deteriorating.
Yeah.
It's probably about 500 years until it's a pile of dust on the bottom of the ocean. But every year you see the changes that are happening every time there's a new expedition to the ship. So we are grateful to have these objects to tell that Titanic story forever.
Well, let's start with what you brought here. I mean, it's kind of like you mentioned, it's the objects, but it's the stories behind it that are so powerful, right?
So we have over 2,000 artifacts in the collection. We have over 300 that we're presenting in Atlanta here at Titanic and Immersive Voyage. But for example, we have this chunk from the actual hull of the Titanic. So this is an actual piece of the steel that made up the hull from Titanic.
Incredible.
So that's really a powerful thing to see, just the thickness of that, how thick that steel was that was keeping the Titanic watertight. And
notice that you're wearing the gloves. I mean, that just tells you how special these pieces are. You have to protect them.
You have to be careful with these. These are the last witnesses to the tragedy of the Titanic, and they're here to tell us that story. And Titanic and Immersive Voyage allows us to relive that story as if we were actually there.
Wow, that is so powerful, so powerful. Okay, I have to know what else you brought.
So one of the really incredible pieces is this sheet music. So this was recovered off of the body of Wallace Hartley, who was the band leader, who famously stood on the boat deck with his quartet and kept playing the music. And so literally he was found in the water with his music box and his violin strapped to his chest, and this music was in that music box.
John, that is so powerful.
It's incredible to think about just the dedication, the craftsmanship, the love of other, that he would create an environment where it stayed calm so people could get into those lifeboats.
Amazing. And we've all seen the movie, right? Even those that aren't Titanic fans outside of that. So we know exactly the scene that you're talking about, and to know that this is the music that was being played in that moment is amazing.
The Nearer My God to Thee music that was featured in the film is also used in our immersive gallery.
Wow.
We were talking about, you sit in a lifeboat.
Yes.
And you witness Titanic sinking from a distance about 300 yards off. And what you're hearing is the wireless messages that Titanic was sending out and the wireless messages she was receiving. So these are Titanic's final words that you're witnessing on the screen while you're sitting in the lifeboat, essentially helpless to do anything about it, which is exactly the condition, the place that all those who survived found themselves in who were in lifeboats.
I want to ask you about that, because I've seen that in just promotional videos, right, of people sitting in the lifeboat at this experience, looking up and seeing the Titanic slowly sinking. I mean, what's the feedback that you've gotten from visitors who've had a chance to do that?
Incredibly emotional, incredible connection to the story like never before. A level of connection that no one thought was possible. And that was really the genesis for the whole storytelling of Titanic and Immersive Voyage, was we want to show you Titanic's final moments in a way that you couldn't picture beforehand.
Of course, of course. So, you know, my eyes kind of went to here, and when we're thinking about the people who were there, the people who lived this is part of that history.
That's right. So these buttons are from Third Officer Herbert Pittman, who actually was loading the lifeboats and got into Lifeboat 5, took up that position about 300 yards away from the ship as it was going down, and then said, I want to go back and recover, pull some people out of the water. But the folks in his lifeboat said, we're not going back.
Oh, goodness.
It's too dangerous. We could get swamped. So he lived with a heavy conscience, a lot of guilt for the rest of his life, because he didn't go back to recover those other people in the water.
Wow, wow, wow. Just one of the many stories I know to come from this. So what about this?
So this is actually a piece of wreckage from the Carpathia, which was the rescue ship. And the Carpathia was actually sunk in 1918 by a German U-boat. But Carpathia is probably the star of the entire Titanic story, and one that a part of the story that isn't talked about that much, which is something else we wanted to do with Titanic and Immersive Voyage, was bring out these other stories. So this was a deck drain that was on the back of the ship, where most of the third-class passengers who were rescued from Titanic huddled together over the engine compartments to stay warm because it was very cold, and wept because of the loss.
Wow.
And the collector who has brought this piece to us calls this the drain of a million tears.
Goodness.
Because you think about those people standing over this drain, looking out in the empty ocean, where their hopes and their dreams had been gathered together and then were suddenly lost.
Destroyed. Wow, an incredible piece of history right here. I want to ask you this. If folks are watching right now, they're interested in coming, they're wondering if this would be an appropriate exhibition for their kids, what would you say?
So I would say we have tons of school groups that come through, you know, all the way from 4th grade and up. And children love the story because there is also all the excitement. There's the big elements of building a big ship. We have this 8-foot-long ship model. You can explore the ship. There's a ton of technology. The virtual reality is very powerful as well in terms of an exploration. And the storytelling of the loss is great for families to gather around and say, okay, what would we have done in this situation? To really bring it home.
What a great point. Yeah, and a wonderful opportunity to be able to do this with your entire family. How long do we have to enjoy this? Is this something we need to go ahead and jump on right now?
October is National Museum Month.
Okay.
So we have a pop-up exhibition experience of Titanic Immersive Voyage at the Exhibition Hub Atlanta Arts Center for the month of October, and hopefully we'll be able to stay longer with the support of the community.
Okay.
And the best way to get tickets is expo-titanic.com, and we're open every day except for Tuesday.
Wow, I got to tell you, I'm incredibly impressed with the artifacts that you brought, and I know this is just a few.
Literally just scratches
hundreds.
the surface
Yes.
of what we have on display there.
Incredible. John, thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us today.
Thanks, Elise. It's
We
my pleasure.
appreciate it. And the Titanic Immersive Voyage is now up at the Exhibition Hub at Atlanta's Arts Center. That's located at 5660 Buford Highway Northeast in Doraville. Tickets for adults start at $29.90. Children 4 to 17 are $22.90. And for more info, you can head to fox5atlanta.com. Just look under the Good Day section.